This video is brought to you by Straight Goods News, Canada's alternative online news source. Visit straightgoods.ca.
How concerned are you that your oil sands comments will provide fodder for the Western Premier's meeting tomorrow, and that you've created enemies among them?
Well, my point has been since the beginning that my discussion is not with them as individuals, certainly, and I've been a provincial politician. I was a minister provincially, so I have nothing against provincial politicians. What I am saying is this, that the debate we're having with regard to sustainable development in the oil sands is a debate that involves the federal government, because the federal government is responsible for the Navigable Waters Act, it's responsible for the Migratory Birds Act, it's responsible for the Fisheries Act, has to look at the health of First Nations, the migration of the groundwater from province to province. These are all things that are not being enforced and monitored. There was a time when a company that had practices that didn't conform to environmental legislation led to changes in the practices to make them conform to the legislation. This government in C-38 is changing the legislation to make it conform to the practices of the companies that have been going against them. So our discussion is with regard to sustainable development and industrial strategy for the future to maintain a balanced economy in Canada. You cannot find a single statement from me with regard to the West. I noticed that some of those premiers are saying this is an attack in the West. What I say with regard to sustainable development applies as much in New Brunswick as it does in British Columbia. It's a vision to include economic, social, and environmental aspects every time the government takes a decision. I've done it. The legislation I brought forward in Quebec was a model in North America for sustainable development. It's the same overarching vision that we want to bring to all decisions that the federal government takes. I dare say that it's the one thing that's been missing the most in Ottawa for the past 20 years. We've had sectoral sustainable development plans. We've never had anything that overarches the whole thing.
But having said that, isn't it a little odd that Premier Redford can't find time to see them?
I'm sure that it'll work out some other time. It didn't work out this time. We were offered a meeting with the Deputy Premier. We accepted with great openness. Not a bit. I'm going to be up in Fort Mac. We've got a wonderful trip planned. I'm going to be meeting with a lot of people, including a great doctor with whom I've had a chance to talk, named John O'Connor, who's been doing great work up there.
Comment vous êtes capable de faire que si Monsieur Opitz
this week that you would change your mind on the Dutch disease or your diagnosis of what's wrong?
The most important element for us in going out there is to talk about the sustainable development of all of our natural resources, but of course in particular the oil sands. This is about the future of the economy of the country, maintaining the equilibrium, coming up with a strategy that will allow us to maintain a vital industrial sector. But of course it's about the enforcement of federal legislation. Since the beginning we've made it clear that we're very concerned that the federal government is not enforcing federal law. Navigable Waters Act, Fisheries Act, migratory birds, not looking at cumulative health effects, not looking at groundwater, not monitoring the water in any way, shape, or form. A year ago they talked about monitoring water, now they're dropping it completely. Some of the people who were supposed to be on that committee haven't even been convened to a meeting. So these are all things that the federal government is not doing. But of course I want to come and talk to people in Fort Mac, see more about the actual installations themselves. We've got quite an interesting tour planned. We'll be